Holman, Chair of the Commission. I'll be running tonight's meeting. We're your volunteer representatives appointed by our county councilperson or county executive and entrusted to monitor renovations and additions to our Baltimore County historic resources. We review and approve nominations to the Baltimore County preliminary landmarks list and comment on National Register nominations. Additionally, we are charged with evaluating submissions to the Baltimore County Historic Tax Credit Program that encourages the appropriate maintenance and renovation of designated historic properties. Would the commissioners please introduce themselves by name and county council district or representation? We can go in the order listed on the PowerPoint.
Good evening. This is Lily Mundruff with Council District 1.
Chris Weston, District 2.
And Wendy MacGyver in District 3. Ray's not with us. Phoebe?
Phoebe Evans-Latosha, executive appointment.
Jamie Ferguson, executive appointment.
I don't think Scott's with us tonight. So Ed?
Ed Horde, executive appointment.
And Vince isn't with us, so Tom?
Tom is not with us.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I saw he popped on. I see Chris. Chris, how about you?
Okay. Chris Parts, executive appointment.
Good. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. So that gives us a quorum now. Am I counting right? 1, 2, 4.
Yes, we have 8.
6, 7, 8. Yes, good. Good. So
I'm not, could I ask a question? I'm not seeing the PowerPoint on my screen. Is there something I should be doing?
Is anybody else having an issue seeing it?
Maybe it's just the layout button at the top. Maybe you
Yeah.
have it under video instead of the whole thing.
It says
I have
members and
full
staff.
screen view,
Okay.
I hide participants, names and
Okay.
video, show active speaker, stack or side by side are my only options in video and view.
I do see I see the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
me
For some
too.
reason I'm not, so that's annoying.
I think stacked instead of side by side, maybe, and try to, I don't know.
It should automatically share.
I mean, it never had a problem before, but show active speaker, no.
Well,
I've got the, I'll look on my, I have the, all the things are up. I'll look on my screen, on mine, I won't look at the PowerPoint.
and while you sort that out, Ed, we'll go ahead and stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the
To the
republic,
Republic, for which it
for which
stands,
it stands,
one nation, under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible.
with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. The Landmarks Preservation Commission operates under the authority, standards, and requirements of Title VII, Article 32 of the Baltimore County Code. We refer to the United States Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation as administered by the National Park Service. This is the accepted national standard for historic preservation projects. Our own Baltimore County Historic Preservation Design Guidelines directly reference and incorporate the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. We have important preservation issues to discuss and debate at each meeting. If you would like to make comments, please limit your comments to the specific application or proposal submission being reviewed. We ask for your assistance and understanding so that discussions do not digress. As an additional comment, we can all agree that historic preservation is an important aspect of the quality of life and place that makes Baltimore County unique. As a commission, we seek to recommend significant buildings and places for landmark consideration to the County Council for their final vote. As commissioners, we serve on the commission due to our expertise, interest, and passion for historic buildings and places, and review submissions based solely on their merit. While we may disagree in discussion and voting, we continue to be a collegial body that respects each other personally and professionally. Are there any staff reminders for meetings or?
Yes, so just a reminder to provide public testimony for any item on the agenda. Members of the public must first register to speak with staff prior to the meeting or submit written testimony to staff in advance. So then the meeting staff can announce that individual at the appropriate time. Owners, applicants, and project representatives do not need to sign up in advance. Staff will announce by name and unmute the applicants and project representatives at the appropriate time. And just a reminder, the information presented in this PowerPoint is just a summary and overview of the materials that were submitted by each applicant. The commissioners all receive the meeting materials packet, which includes applications, plans, and photos, and other information a week prior to the meeting so that they can review that and have in front of them during the meeting to reference. So the information in this presentation is just to help keep the meeting moving in a organized manner.
Thank you, Caitlin. And then how about staff informing us of any changes to the preliminary agenda?
No changes.
No changes. Great. Thank you. And then minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read those and approve them or have questions or corrections?
I would move that we approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor? We can do this by voice vote or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. And then the chair had identifies just item 7 as a consent agenda item. Everybody have a chance to look at that. Do we have any questions, staff? Do you want to go over it a little bit? See if there's any question on whether we need to just leave it as consent item.
Well, this is the McMillan property at 5167 Viaduct Avenue in Relay, County Council District Number 1. This is a contributing resource within the Relay County Historic District, and the applicant is seeking a tax credit Part 2 amendment to expand the scope of work to make structural repairs and or replacements to the existing joints. Citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, facade materials, pages 1 through 12, County Code sections 11-2-201 and 32-7-405.
Good, thank you. Commission, any objections to that being consent item?
No.
Not hearing any. May I have approval for that consent item? Is there a
Motion to approve.
And second?
Second.
And can we do a roll call vote for that, Jessica?
Yes, can we have Phoebe, please?
Yes.
Chris Weston,
Yes.
Wendy,
Just raise your hand, Wendy, if you.
Go ahead, Wendy, you're unmuted.
Wendy, can you hear me? Is that consent agenda items? We're approving those. Can you say yes or raise your hand? Well, let's move on to the next.
can we have Ed, please? Ed, are you unmuted?
It looks like he got kicked out of the meeting. I don't see him on the list. Do we still have a quorum? Hold on.
Yeah, Tom just joined us.
Yeah, we have
Next man up kind of thing. Okay.
All right, so we'll come back for Ed. Jamie, please.
Yes.
Lily,
Yes.
Tom.
Present.
Oh, we're voting on the consent agenda.
Understood, and I wasn't here to hear it, so I'm voting abstain or present. I'm
That's
here, but I was not here to
Okay.
hear.
Got it.
testimony.
That's just fine. So recorded, Tom. Thank you.
It's,
Okay.
it is
Not part of the
back.
quorum.
All right, Chris Parts, please.
Yes. Mhm.
John.
Yes.
Oh, all right, and we have Ed. I'm sorry, Ed, would you please cast your vote for the consent agenda?
You're muted, Ed. Thumbs up.
Yes.
There you
Great,
go.
thank you.
Okay.
And then, Wendy, if you can hear us, can you please cast your vote?
Okay, we'll just leave that as she also voted present. And then we'll begin with item number 4, the Mitchell property.
All right, Mitchell property is located at 1608 South Rolling Road, County Council District Number 1. This is a non-contributing resource within the Relay County Historic District, and the applicant has proposed a rear addition construction. The rancher-style dwelling was constructed in 1985 before the county historic district designation in 1996. The applicant is proposing to construct a 12 by 33-foot addition on the rear north elevation in order to expand the interior kitchen and master bedroom areas. Staff notes this is a panhandle lot, and the only frontage of the property on South Rolling Road is a driveway. The house is set back from the road behind the dwelling at 1610 South Rolling Road, which obstructs the dwelling at 1608's visibility from the public right-of-way. Additionally, there is a significant amount of landscape buffering along the property line between 1610 and 1608. Staff provided Google Street Views in the meeting materials packet. The proposed location of the addition is on the north or rear elevation. Due to the orientation of the dwelling, its primary elevation facing south, away from the road. The addition appears to be on the side, but is actually the rear elevation. The addition will be constructed in line with the east elevation and extend 12 feet to the north and 33 feet along the north elevation. The addition will be situated atop a cement block foundation, clad in vinyl siding, and have an asphalt shingle roof, all to match the existing materials of the main dwelling. Information from the contractor via email and rear roof structure will be tied into the main roof's ridgeline, extending the rear slope to create a uniform roof. Copies of these emails were included in the meeting materials. There will be 2 windows on the north elevation and 1 window on the west elevation of the addition. Additionally, 2 windows will be added on the east elevation of the existing dwelling where none currently exists. They will be double hung vinyl to match those on the existing dwelling. No elevations of the east elevation were submitted that show the proposed addition from that view. Staff's recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness as proposed, citing Baltimore County Design Guidelines, additions and infill, pages 1 through 7, County Code Section 32-7-405.
Thank you, Jessica. Commissioners, any comments? Additions, corrections, thoughts?
I think it seems very hidden and it looks like it's a reasonable addition. I would follow the staff comments.
Okay, so should we take that as a motion that you?
Yes, I would move that we align with the staff comments and move to support appropriateness.
Good, good. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. And then a roll call vote, Jessica?
Have Phoebe, please.
Yes.
Chris Weston.
Yes.
Wendy.
Skip?
Ed.
Yes.
Jamie.
Yes.
Lily.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Chris Parts.
Yes.
And John, please.
Yes.
Great,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you. And then number 5.
All right.
Yeah.
Taking a look at this property again, the Charles C. Woodland House is a lighthouse property investments at 77 Winters Lane, Catonsville, County Council District Number 1, final landmark list number 259. And the applicant has again returned with substantial exterior repairs and replacements. As we know, this was reviewed at last month's meeting. The commission voted not to approve the work as proposed, stating that there was not enough information to review the project. The commission requested better drawings and renderings of the proposed work be included in resubmission. The applicant has returned with new drawings and a detailed scope of work. Staff would like to thank the applicant for the time they put into the detailed submission. Staff rearranged some of the application's work items in order to summarize all the work for the meeting. So work item number 1 for the siding. The dwelling has existing vinyl siding on the front elevation and aluminum siding on the sides and rear. The applicant proposes to remove existing vinyl and aluminum siding, repair sheathing in areas with rot, apply vapor barrier, and install new vinyl siding with a 4.5-inch Dutch lap exposure on all elevations. In addition, the applicant mentions that they are open to suggestions by the commission and has proposed a lapped hardy plank with a wood grain texture as an additional option. Further, the applicant has proposed an alternative ply gem transformations double 5-inch by 144-inch white lap vinyl siding for consideration. Our design guidelines allow for the in-kind replacements of existing non-original wall coverings. However, a cementous clapboard siding like hardy plank with a smooth finish would be more appropriate. Staff suggests that the hardy plank lap siding be selected with the condition that it has a smooth finish, no faux wood textures like the material proposed. Work item 2, gutter and downspouts replacements. Currently, there are 5-inch K-style aluminum gutters on the front porch and rear elevation. The applicant proposes to remove existing gutters and downspouts and replace them with new K-style aluminum gutters and new 2 by 3-inch downspouts at the same locations. Work item number 3, eave, soffit, and fascia replacements. The existing eave, soffits, and fascia on the dwelling are covered in aluminum, are beyond their usable life, allowing water penetration. The applicant proposes to replace existing coverings, repair eaves, soffits, and fascia as needed, and replace coverings with an in-kind material at same locations on the entire dwelling. Work item number 4, windows. The dwelling has 23 existing windows that are previous vinyl replacements of various sizes. There are 1/1 double vinyl hung windows with aluminum casing and with vinyl shutters on the front. The applicant is proposing to make in-kind replacements to the existing windows. The replacements will be 1/1 vinyl double hung windows throughout the dwelling with new aluminum casing to install existing shutters on the front. In addition, there are several alterations to existing window openings and the creation of new window openings which are proposed because they interfered with interior alterations. So the following are alterations to the existing window openings. The front elevation, existing paired window on the second story of the front elevation will be removed and replaced with a single window to align vertically with the window on the first floor. The wall will be reframed and covered in the new siding. The applicant notes that several of the same type of dwellings on the street have single windows on the front elevation. Our design guidelines state that changing the location, covering up, changing the dimensions of a window opening, or adding new windows is not appropriate, especially on the front elevation, as it disturbs the structure's rhythm and undermines the historic integrity. In this situation, the window alteration still respects the historic character of the house. The north elevation, the existing second-story window measuring 28 by 42 inches. The applicant proposes to remove the window and reframe the wall to accommodate planned interior renovations. Siding will match the rest of the exterior wall. Shed addition, second floor, current windows measuring 27 by 42 inches and a grouping of 3 1/1 windows measuring 27 by 42 inches. These windows interfere with planned interior renovations. The proposal is to remove the existing windows and reframe the exterior wall to accommodate 2 new windows in similar but new locations. The new windows will measure 24 by 54 inches and 32 by 54 inches. For the rear elevation, on the second story, there is a cluster of 1/1 stationary windows flanked by 2 vinyl siding windows centered on the elevation. On the first story, there are 2 windows measuring 32 by 38 inches. These window placements interfere with planned interior renovations. The applicant proposes to remove the windows and reframe the exterior wall, rebuild newly exposed exterior wall, and install new sheathing, vapor barrier, and siding. The new window openings in the new locations are proposed on the rear, upper, and lower stories, and proposed to install 4 new windows measuring 32 by 54 inches. On the south elevation, the second story of the shed addition, there is a grouping of 3 windows measuring 27 by 42 inches, which interfere with planned interior renovations. The applicant proposes to remove the windows and reframe the wall to accommodate a single 32 by 54 inch window. Siding will match the rest of the exterior. And on the first story of the shed addition is a small 1/1 window. The applicant proposes to remove this window and rebuild newly exposed exterior wall framing to current building codes and standards, install new sheathing, vapor barriers, and siding. The remaining windows on this elevation, except the attic window, will be expanded to accommodate new sized windows in order to have all windows on the house have a consistent siding. Walls will be reframed to accommodate the new window siding. The new window openings on the south elevation, second story of the main bulk of the house, the applicant proposes to create a new window opening where one does not currently exist. The window size will match the other proposed. Our design guidelines allow the enclosing, enlarging, or adding openings at the rear or other portions of the house that are not visible from the street may be appropriate if the proposal reflects the historic character of the house. For work item number 5, exterior doors. The existing front entry is a single leaf 6-panel steel door measuring 32 by 80 inches with a vinyl sliding transom window and a steel storm door. The applicant proposes to remove the current storm door entry and transom window, rebuild door and transom frame to current building codes and standards, replace the transom window with a to-be-built custom transom window with frosted glass, install a new steel 6-panel door of the same dimensions as the existing, for alterations to the existing door openings. At the north elevation side door under the side porch addition, proposed for demolition is a single leaf non-functioning door with closed off transom opening. The applicant proposes to remove the door and transom and reframe the opening to accommodate the window and to be centered on the wall measuring 32 by 62 inches. On the rear elevation, there is a centered sliding glass door. The applicant proposes to remove the sliding door, rebuild newly exposed exterior wall framing to current building codes and standards, install new sheathing, vapor barrier, and siding. For the new door openings, on the rear elevation, after the removal of the existing sliding door, the applicant proposes the creation of 2 new door openings on either end of the building wall. 2 36-inch wide single leaf glazed and paneled steel doors will be installed. Our design guidelines allow the enclosing, enlarging, or adding openings at the rear or other portions of the house that are not visible from the street may be appropriate if the proposal respects the historic character of the house. For work item number 6, the front porch. The existing front porch has 4 decorative metal posts supporting its shed roof. The applicant proposes to remove existing posts and replace with pressure-treated 4x4 lumbar with vinyl post surrounds and to install new vinyl balusters in accordance with current building codes and standards. In addition, the existing 3-tab shingle roof will be replaced in kind with a new 3-tab asphalt roof. Work item number 7, front steps and walkway. The existing front concrete steps and concrete walkway, which wrap around the front porch and south foundation wall. The walkway is in poor shape and sinking below grade. The front steps are in poor location, leaving little room for the driveway. The applicant proposes to demolish the front steps and replace with a new 3-foot wide concrete steps with a 10-inch tread and 7.75-inch risers in accordance with current building codes and standards in a new location, moving them over slightly. The existing metal handrail will remain and will be used as the right side handrail to the new stairs. In addition, the applicant proposed to demolish 11-foot concrete walkway section on the left side of the front elevation and 40-foot section along the side elevation. Regrade exposed sections with topsoil and proper slope and landscape. Work item number 8, side addition and porch. Staff notes that from the Sanborn Fire Insurance maps that this side addition appears to have been constructed in 1929 around the same time as the rear shed addition. The one-story, one-bay side addition is clad in vinyl siding and porch with shed asphalt shingled roof. The applicant notes that the entire structure sits on a sinking block foundation and is pulled away from the main house. The enclosed addition was poorly built, appears to have been built with substandard materials, and is full of wood rot. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing single-story addition, covered porch, and shed roof, repair and repoint any newly re-exposed original random stone foundation on the north side of the main structure, build new stairs leading to cellar and cover with a steel door, rebuild newly exposed exterior wall framing, and install new sheathing, vapor barrier, and siding. The existing side door will be converted to a window opening. Staff notes that while this may date around the same time as the rear shed addition, the side addition does not have any significance to this type of vernacular style of architecture, which is typically 2 rooms wide, 1 room deep. In addition, the removal opens up the driveway area, providing more space to access the rear yard. For work item number 9, rear addition roof. The rear shed roof addition was constructed in 1929. The applicant notes that the shed roof on the rear addition appears to have been laid at 2 separate time periods, with a newer roof laid over the first. Neither roof was properly affixed to the gabled roof structure, nor properly supported. Additionally, the floor joists on the second level of the addition were not properly sistered or supported to the main structure. The applicant proposes to rebuild the roof structure in accordance with current building codes and standards, raising it to be in level with the main roof's gable. The old roofing materials will be removed, new decking, underlayment, and coverings will be installed to match the rest of the house roof. Work item number 10, main roof and chimney. The existing roofing on the main house is a 3-tab shingle. The applicant proposes to replace the existing material in kind with a new 3-tab asphalt roof. In addition, new decking underlayment will be installed. There are 2 brick interior end chimneys that are no longer functioning and in a deteriorated state. The applicant proposed to remove both chimneys. For work item number 11, the rear deck. The rear wood deck currently sits on an old concrete deck or porch. The concrete deck is old and crumbling, and the wood supports are rotting. The wood deck is severely warped, showing signs of improper supporting, and the applicant proposes to remove the existing deck and concrete porch and construct a new 8 by 16 foot pressure treated wood deck to current building codes and standards with a wood rear landing and stairs. Finally, work item 12, the patio. There is a small concrete patio around the well and is cracked. The applicant proposes to construct a new 24 by 20 foot patio around the well to proper grade and slope. The builder would like to use 4 by 4 pressure treated wood as the patio border and attempt to repurpose the bricks from the demolished chimneys as infill. If this is not approved or not possible, the builder will use a 3/8 inch pea gravel aggregate. Staff's recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness with the condition that the hardy plank siding have a smooth texture with no faux wood graining, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, chapters roofs, pages 1 through 13, porches and steps, pages 1 through 6, facade materials, pages 1 through 12, windows and doors, pages 1 through 8, County Code Section 32-7-405.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's a lot to cover on this particular house. It changes the nature of the house a little bit, and welcome staff comments or thoughts on it. Anything, commissioners?
I think it's a great change from last time. I think it looks like a much more thorough package and a good understanding of the issues.
And we do have the property owner and project manager on with us.
Thank you for that reminder, Jessica. I'm sorry. Would the property owner like to address anything before we begin our discussion?
Mr. Albatar and Mr. Sloan, I have you unmuted.
I want to thank everybody for their time and giving me a second go at this. I wish I had the time before the first meeting to get it together the way everything was presented this time, but I literally got the plans back from the engineer 2 days after the last meeting, so I apologize for that. I did have a little speech to say, but I think I'd probably just be better off keeping my mouth shut. Um,
Good advice
I,
for everybody, right?
I would say I understand the reasons for wanting to use a hardy board on the siding. The only thing that I ask is consideration to use a look-alike vinyl siding, and the reason why I ask that is obviously cost. Trying to keep the costs at a minimal. It's no secret that this is an income property for me that I intended to make money on. Right now, I'm just trying to stop the bleeding, to be honest with you. I will not be making any money on this project. So that's the only thing that I really ask is if I could use a cheaper siding versus the most expensive siding.
Thank you. Commissioners, comments or thoughts?
Am I correct that the entire interior of the building has been gutted?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that was not clear the last time.
Okay. So this is Rob Sloan. If I just put a couple little bit of insight to the situation going on here. So to speak on the siding situation, at least a third of the house is already vinyl siding. It's not just the front; it's a majority of the right side of the house. If you're looking at the front door, that's already vinyl siding. So I don't know if that plays a role in your guys' decision or not. I really do respect how thorough you guys are keeping the historic of it. I know it seems like a giant scope of work. The reality is, when we started to demo the house, it is a lot of it unsalvageable. And I've been working on historic houses in Ellicott City for a long time, and we go through the same process. And I do appreciate the historical part about it, but what we propose to change is almost unsalvageable. The siding, I understand your guys' decision and where it may land with that, but I know it was mentioned that it is a large scope of work and a big change. But if the house is to be kept, with the upstairs additions, there was no headers and stuff. They're literally floating. Um, a lot of the work we're doing is just to save the house from, for lack of better terms, falling apart. So though it may seem like a lot, we're working with what we have as far as materials that are available in today's time and the look. As far as the appearance of the siding, the vinyl that we're proposed to use is extremely similar to the hardy in appearance. So much so that we actually thought the front was a different material, but it was actually vinyl. We had to actually touch it and take part of it off to realize that it was vinyl. That being said, a lot of the material nowadays is so close in appearance that it the look that we're going for the historical part or the hardy board, if you put them side by side, you could almost not tell the difference. And of course, it is a grave difference in cost, like probably double at minimum.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioners, any further thoughts or observations?
This is Lily Mundrove. I had some thoughts. First, if that's okay. I wanted to thank. I thought the drawings were very thorough. So definitely a big change between what we saw before. I wanted to understand whether the project is. As I understand it, it's on the Baltimore County final landmarks list. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And is this property going for historic tax credits, or are we just reviewing it on the basis of exterior, the exterior changes or massing as it relates to the historic aspects of the house?
So this is just a regular historic review application. It's not for tax credits.
Okay. And my last question was, based on the photographs that were taken during the MHT nomination, do you have a date for when that was? And the reason why I'm asking is primarily that change from the double window on the front to a single window, because that seems to appear on those early photos, as well as the, the iron, the little iron posts that the houses typically use. I just wanted to kind of understand what would have been there before. I guess that also shows up in the earlier photos. And if you think that those were different when the house was first built. So just kind of trying to understand those two details.
So the porch details were added in the 70s. If you read the Maryland inventory form for the house, it gives a description and says and gives dates for some of those improvements. But that form was from probably the early 2000s.
Okay.
2005 is what I saw on those photos from the MH Maryland application.
Okay. So the window would have been a single window at the beginning, I guess, originally.
Unknown.
If you look at this house versus similar houses on the street, they all have a single window up front.
Right, right.
And I believe that to be the same with all of the multi windows that are within the home. So the ones that are on the shed roof addition in the rear, those all would have been single windows when that addition was first built. They wouldn't have put a 3-pack of windows on either side of the property like that. So yes, this one that you're looking at right there, the gray house, is directly across the street from my property, and it has the single window upstairs above the porch, and then single windows on the sides.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Just wanted to understand.
Any other comments, commissioners?
Similarly, I would think that the sliding glass doors in the back were not original either.
Yes, that's correct.
I think that the upper portion of that rear addition was probably a sleeping porch or a screened-in porch at some point, since it was built in 1929. It's very likely that it was like a sleeping porch that was later enclosed, and that's why it's got those awkward alignments of windows.
I have a little problem with the number of windows that are relocated and redone, even though they're on the back side. The side windows, I think, are visible from the street. I mean, this north elevation right side shows you how visible it is from the street. And I think the other side is equally visible. The south elevation is equally visible from the street. So I have a little problem with it seems like every single window on the side windows are being on the side is being relocated, changed, moved. I mean, if this weren't a landmark, I would think differently. But I mean, this is one of our landmark structures, a historic African American resource that we have that I feel very uneasy about approving with the number of changes to the windows. It's like take the elevation that's in front of us. It's like every single window is changed on that side except for the attic window.
Not changed, corrected. Corrected to how it would have been.
I will tell you a story of a project I did in Mount Vernon, which was historic. We were getting historic tax credits from the National Park Service. We found a window that we could see the mullion line, where the mullions were meeting the vertical mullion. So it was originally a multi-paned window. We said, oh, we'll do a good deed and replace this with a multi-paned window. We were rejected for our tax credit application because of doing that, because the theory in historic reviews is that what you want to do is stabilize it where it is, because it's all history. It's all the history of the building. The addition, oh yeah, it's only an addition, but the addition is 96 years old. It's not like it's, done 5 years ago. To say you're correcting it, you're changing it possibly to what was there before. I would argue on the back, No, you were not changing it to what was there before. Before it was a sleeping porch. It was later changed to windows. It's but it when it was changed, and who knows when it was changed? We don't know. It could have been 1940, 1950, 1960. Whatever it is, it's, it could easily be over 50 years old, and it's part of the history of this building. So I have a hard time with the windows, with the change, with so many changes to doors and windows.
Any other commissioners have thoughts on that or comments?
I'd suggest if the question is what was there, what versus what was not there, once you start removing the siding, the remaining sheathing underneath might give some clues, or it's been patched or repatched. If we wanted to document, if nothing else, what was there previously, that would be a way to at least start to try and drill into the history there.
Tom, I'm not quite clear. So you're suggesting that during the process that they document what they find underneath as part of what we can add to the history of the house.
Yeah, I mean, there's all this conjecture about what was here, what wasn't here. You're going to see where windows have been cut out and patched in and moved around, and clearly this house has been heavily manipulated over time. You can start to trace that history through what's left over underneath the clearly new siding there.
You probably see it through the framing that's exposed on the inside.
Yeah, that's what I
Exactly.
was going to add too.
And does that, for any of you, does that alter your thoughts on approval or how we proceed with this, or just that's added information for the historical record?
I do have a question though with what this raises, and maybe staff is something that can answer this. So as I understand, when there are different layers of roof and you're going in for tax credits at the state level, if you end up uncovering an older layer, it was my understanding that you would have to put back that layer if you uncover it. So how does that work with the siding in terms of taking out the siding and discovering what's underneath for a landmark project?
In the past, we would just say if the original siding is underneath, we would ask that they would leave it in place, in case a future owner would want to restore it, if that's possible.
Any other thoughts, commissioners?
Is there a reason why you're not going for historic tax credits? If cost was an issue in terms of the hardy plank, that would provide some savings.
Well, I had to get through this process first.
If this is to be rented, then
It would have to be a commercial tax credit.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's
Okay.
not going to be rented, and it's not going to be owner occupied. So I know the Baltimore County tax credit on your yearly taxes does not apply. I have not researched the Maryland tax credit enough. I believe that they'll give me 20%. If I qualify, they'll give me 20% of the exterior renovations. But again, there's a whole process that needs to be done for that. My concern was getting through this before I worry about any tax credits, because I have to get the approval to do the work first.
Well, if you had gotten approval from MHT first and you came to us, the LPC usually follows MHT's review, since they use the same guidelines and standards as we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, did not know that.
And typically, if you would go for county tax credits as well and you have MHT approval, you would apply for county tax credits, staff would be able to administratively approve your application without coming to the LPC. So it would take out, because it's kind of silly to go through another review after being reviewed. So it cuts out that redundant review.
So I just wanted to, I guess, follow up with what Ed said, and then the comment on correcting the elevations. I guess point is, especially when you're dealing with a landmark, unless there is, like you mentioned, perhaps with the front elevation, like if you compare that to the house across the street and they have the same, typically the same format, then yes, you are in fact matching. That's what existing, but not having photographs of the side or maybe historic photos. There's no such thing as correcting what historically has been done to the house, unless it presents a problem and you're trying to address certain things. So it's not, there's no point in correcting history. The history is what it is, and that's why it's a landmark, because it's I guess it's the whole point of preserving the historic character of the house. So just kind of making sure that understanding what the alteration of history means.
Well, I mean, so let me just say a little bit about what I was going to say earlier. This house is 150 years old, and it has 150 years worth of problems. It has not been through any major renovations. We found original wiring, original piping, obviously a ton of original wood, and 150-year-old termites and 150-year-old rot and foundations that are settling that we have to address. And I know the financial aspect is not this committee's concern, but in my opinion, it has to be, because, so for one thing, architecturally speaking, this house is not unique. There's nothing unique about this house. Find it all over Baltimore County, this style of house. And there's 11 other similar homes along Winters Lane alone, and none of them are on the final landmarks list. So it's not the architecture that makes it special. So why is it special? It's because of its prominence of ownership. It's because who owned it? Charles C. Woodland. I'm sure everyone knows about his contributions to the Winters Lane community. So how do you lose that? The only way that ownership history dies is if the house falls in disrepair and crumbles to the ground. And although, again, the expense of these projects is not the committee's consideration, it needs to be a consideration. And it's my belief that one of the main reasons why we lose historic properties is because of the cost of value, the cost to renovate, the cost to maintain versus the value of the property. And if that cost of value is not taken into consideration when properties go up for reviews, then you risk losing more properties. And this property is an example of that. If it becomes too expensive to repair and maintain this property, I'm sorry, it's gonna fall apart. So because of this, I urge you guys to consider, we already talked about the cost-effective materials, but to allow this renovation to proceed, it allows the property to maintain its historic appearance. It doesn't deviate from other buildings of the similar nature within the community, and it retains its pride of ownership for hopefully another 150 years when it gets sold.
Well, that's a long term of ownership you set out for yourself, and I admire your ambition on that. But other things, commissioners, that may be worth considering. We had talked in the certificate of appropriateness that the staff has brought up about hardy plank and that it should have a smooth texture. And I've heard the applicants say that they prefer to do aluminum siding because of cost, but perhaps, excuse me, Tom, just a minute. Perhaps they could do the hardy on just the 1870s part of the structure and vinyl on the addition. So that's a thought that maybe the commissioners might want to give some thought to as we think about this house.
Thank you for that.
Anything else, commissioners?
I guess, John, just a question. So as I'm looking at this and trying to understand, both the addition and the main part of the house are on the same plane. if I'm reading that correctly, so that if there was something like that to be done with the siding, that there would have to be a, a termination of some sort of the old and the start of the vinyl, if that's.
Yes, I suppose there would have to be something. I can't, you who are
And I guess
architects.
that's, and maybe it's just a little deceptive because what I'm seeing in the elevations is that that there's a vertical line that's shown where that.
Yes, and that's, I don't
Right.
know if there's a setback there. That I would, I understand, as
Yeah,
I
and-
understand your question, if there's a
Right.
setback.
In the
You're
plans,
correct.
it doesn't look
is.
like there is.
It is one. I guess you're calling it a plane, but yes, it is all one smooth side. However, we would not have any problems with making a division line there of wood or some other sort to separate the 1870 home from the addition.
Okay.
We could do that easily.
Yeah, it could be a vertical trim piece there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, commissioners, also with the removal of the chimneys, does that have any
Yeah.
context for anybody that this is an
Yeah.
older home that originally had chimneys?
Right. Can we make some, I guess, provisions on the on the staff's recommendations as far as allowing the chimney to remain?
Yeah, of course, we can, shouldn't put it this way, we can do whatever we want. That sounds pretty broad, but we could alter the vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness to include capping and keeping the chimneys and extending the hardy plank smooth finish, not textured, to the 1870s portion of the building.
I'll say that I don't think that any chimney is visible from the road. I'm looking at this on Google Earth right now, and I don't know if it would be a good idea to switch siding. I do like the idea of adding the vertical line to say this is the old and this is an addition, but to use two different types of siding on the building, I think is not going to come off.
Advantage. Okay.
But would be reasonable for the backside.
I'm sorry.
But it may be reasonable for the backside. So you're not switching on the visible sides, but you could switch to vinyl on the rear.
So if I understood Chris's thought was he just is suggesting that we do the vertical divide just to show that one was an addition, but it could be the same siding on both pieces. Is that what I heard, Chris?
Yeah, I'm also not saying that I'm opposed to vinyl. I'm just saying that mixing and matching vinyl and hardy on an elevation is not going to come off well, I don't think.
Maybe we need to just consider what once he removes the siding, just to see what's underneath and maybe follow up with staff on that. Because if it is
What's underneath, I've showed you pictures of what's underneath. So included in the 100 or so pictures are the various sidings that were used throughout time. Some was the German wood, some of it was shiplap, some of it was plywood, some of it was rotten wood, some of it was yardwood. So it just
okay.
Yeah, I'd also sort of second Chris's concerns about changing material in the same plane. I also have a similar concern about saying just the rear elevation, because then you have an outside corner and you can't really clearly terminate materials. If you're at an inside corner, you can kind of break materials, but on the outside, it feels weird to make it have a change of material at that corner. And
okay. So what I'm hearing is that the vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness as stated, perhaps with a recommendation for that vertical distinction, if somebody wants to make that as a motion.
Sure, I'll do that. I recommend that we go with the staff recommendation, but add a vertical 1x4 or something to demarcate the original structure from the addition, incorporated into the siding.
Thank you. And if I may amend that motion just to put kind of an exclamation point that the texture should be smooth of the siding. If I understood the staff recommendation correctly. Do you accept that kind of amendment, Chris?
If it's hardy plank, but aren't we also saying that we're approving vinyl?
Yes. So
Yeah, so if it's hardy plank, do the smooth texture, but we are allowing vinyl.
Okay, good. So I retract that thought. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom.
Can you restate the motion so that everybody understands?
Yeah, so vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness with the condition that there be a vertical differentiation of the vinyl siding to show the 2 stages of the house being built.
Okay, so it's going to be with the condition that it can be vinyl siding.
Yes.
Because they gave us 2 different types, and then a vertical trim piece. All right.
Yes. Did I capture that, Chris?
Yep.
Good. And so Tom is second, and we are ready for a roll call vote.
All right, can I have Phoebe, please?
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Chris Weston,
Yes.
Ed,
No.
Jamie,
Yes.
Lily,
No.
Tom,
Yes.
Chris Parts,
Yes.
and John, please.
No.
Thank you.
But how many no's and how many yeses?
We have 5 yeses and 3 nos.
And the motion carries. So Tom, please get with.
Did Wendy vote?
No,
Wendy has been abstaining for voting, though I'm
She's-
not sure why.
yeah, but the vote couldn't change the outcome in either case, Phoebe.
Okay, just
It was 5
making
to
sure
3.
on the numbers.
Yeah, no, we're having a little technical difficulty with Wendy tonight, I think. So Tom, please get with our staff for any final questions you might have on it. We appreciate you both being here to walk us through some of your issues with the property.
Thank you very much.
Wish you well with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then on to number 6, Jessica.
Right. Right. Says the Smith property at 502 Upland Road in Pikesville, County Council District Number 2. Says a non-contributing resource within the Subbrook Park County Historic District. And we're back for the ex post facto review of window replacements. Code Enforcement Correction Notice number CB 2300696. So as you remember, at the January 11th, 2024 meeting of the LPC, the applicant came before the commission for the ex post facto review for window replacements. The commission voted to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the removal of the vinyl replacements on the front elevation and to replace with windows that match the original as close as possible with the same size, style, Muntin profile, and light configuration. The original front windows are 2 existing window openings on the left side were fitted with a 12 light metal window, and on the right side there was a large window with 9 lights in a 3x3 configuration. The applicant has returned with a proposal to remove the front windows and to replace with windows that closely match the style and configuration of the original. The 2 replacement windows on the left of the front elevation will consist of 2 68 by 36 3/4 inch aluminum clad wood windows with 6 lights, flanked by 2 16 3/4 by 36 1/4 aluminum clad windows with 3 lights to recreate the original 12 light windows. The windows will be painted white to match the original color. The previous 9-light window on the right side of the front elevation will be returned to with a 109.25 inch by 73.25 inch aluminum clad wood window with 9 lights painted white. Staff's recommendation is to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness as proposed, citing Baltimore County Historic Design Guidelines, Windows and Doors, pages 1 through 8, County Code Section 32-7-405.
Thank you. Thank you for shedding light on that, Jessica. We appreciate it. Staff, commissioners rather, any thoughts or comments? This is a repeat where they brought it back to us with a little better information.
I think it's a great improvement.
I do have the property owner, Mr. Dominic Smith, on. If you'd like to give any comments, Mr. Smith.
Nothing really, other than, I got with an installer, Marvin Windows, with the custom nature. It was kind of hard to really find, just a stock window company that could do it. Pella said that architecturally they couldn't quite match the original that was based off of what my next door neighbor has. Anderson was somewhere in the middle. But I went with this company that does Marvin Windows, and they have worked a lot with historical commissions all over the state. And, I had them draw up the proposal to satisfy all the requirements that you said with the Munson profile and everything else. So I hope everything's correct this time around.
Thank you. Thank you for that attention to detail. Ed, was that in the form of a motion that you were trying?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to vote to issue a certificate of appropriateness as proposed, citing Baltimore County Historic Guidelines, Windows and Doors 1 through 8, County Code Section 32-7-405.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Second.
Thank you and thank you. And then a roll call vote, Jessica?
Great. Can I have Phoebe, please?
Yes.
Chris Weston,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Lily,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Chris Parts,
Yes.
and John, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
You. Well, that concludes the meeting. Are there other things that the staff needs to talk about? I don't see any other.
Yeah, we just had one part 2 tax credit application that was approved by MHT and property at 12656 Manor Road in Glen Arm. It says final landmark number 149, the Hunt Schmidt House, and they received part 2 approval for slate shingle replacements and flashing repairs.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. And do I see our next meeting is on the Ides of March? Yay.
It is.
Yeah.
Or Pi Day.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Pi Day. Yes. So there's lots of historic precedents in our favor and the flow with the thing. So I think we're ready to vote to adjourn. Do we have?
I just have
go
one
ahead,
question.
Phoebe.
Yeah. So in terms of the Charles Woodland House, if the property owner were to go to MHT for the tax credits, and they came to a different conclusion than we came to, what would be the process there? Would the property owner have the opportunity to then come back to us?
If they complete a county tax credit application and have a part 2 approval or conditional part 2 approval from MHT, staff can approve it. So then the previous, if anything had changed, it would be like them coming back to us if they have part 2 from MHT. But if they're not applying for a county tax credit and their MHT has changes to their proposal, they would have to come back to us.
Okay.
And also before we adjourn, again, a thank you to Lily, Phoebe, and Ed for doing that subcommittee on the previous meeting's decision on one of the properties. Appreciate that and the work you did on it. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Do we
would.
need to do any approval of that as a board?
I don't think so, since
We're
it
not
it
suggesting any
concurred with,
action. So.
yeah, it concurred with the board action. Had it been a different result, I think we would need to bring it back up, but um, I don't think we need to. What do you think, Caitlin?
I'm sorry, what was that?
So whether we need to vote on that subcommittee report, my sense of it is, since it concurred with the commission vote in the previous meeting, then no further action is required.
Yes, that would be correct.
We maybe for the record just ought to say that it was reviewed and there was no further action required. It would confirm the decision made in the meeting.
Duly noted, Ed. Yes,
Yes,
that's
we can make a
fine.
note of that in the meeting minutes.
In the minutes. Yeah, good. Now I think we're ready to have a motion.
I do have a question. Do you
Oh.
have do you have a time frame for when you're looking? I believe you had sent the draft for the guidelines, right? You had shared it with the commission. And when are you looking for any feedback, or?
So you can provide any feedback you'd like from now. The public comment period will be in March because the meeting is in, I just forgot, I think it's March 12th because of all the CZMP hearings we have in February. I was trying to find a day I wanted to do in February, so it's in March. So the public comment period is 2 weeks prior to that meeting. So I think it's like February 29th that it'll start. And it'll be notified in the newspapers. A copy will be at every library. We'll also have a link on our website, and it'll be provided to all of our community groups to review, to provide feedback. It's not a LPC meeting. It's a Department of Planning hearing. So LPC members encouraged to attend. If you can't make it, that's fine. It's going to be virtual. But you guys can submit any comments or feedback if you have, and then they'll be taken into consideration after we go through the public process. And if there's any comments from them to make changes, it'll happen at the same time.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And anything else before I start to say a motion to adjourn again?
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And thumbs up or wave and say yes.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you all. Everybody have a good evening. We
Bye.
appreciate it.